Grand day, beautiful souls. I am Alanisa Sa'adah. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for returning. And it's like the dust is trying to be a part of my video. But thank you for coming back and being a part of, my platform. And thank you for taking a liking to what it is that I say, because that encourages me to, one, share more often, and two, to be more grateful for the ability to share, and so I do appreciate you all who support me on all my platforms and who listen to the things that I say. And then for the ones of you who actually are under my coaching, in a sense, I appreciate you even more, because as a teacher, or what I like to consider myself is actually a facilitator, you really don't know what you do until you give someone else the information or the knowledge to do it for themselves. And then you get to see them basically flourish in their own life. And so I appreciate you all, like all of my apprentices, all of my sisters, all of my, some of you are like companions to me. And so I appreciate you all for allowing me to share basically my wisdom with you. And thank you for showing me that I am capable of being, I guess, an elder or a wise one or something like that, Then you, shukran. But today I actually wanted to come back and I wanted to follow up, of course, with the video that I shared last week about consciousness. I actually mentioned a couple things for myself as well to put pins in so that I can come back and elaborate on those subjects. And one, what I wanted to do was help you guys build an understanding, because in order for us to really understand things, we have to know where we're putting it inside of ourselves so that we can utilize it, and then it becomes a resource, a tool of ours, and then we can build an understanding on it because of how much more we're using while we're learning about ourselves, or about the ways that we have our habits and our behaviors, and the things that we were raised to believe, and so, because I believe that we're all undoing some form of a generational curse, maybe not just generationally, but maybe it could be what's another word, genetically, because a lot of us don't know enough about our history to actually claim it to be a generational curse. We don't know who our ancestors are. We don't know our grandparents or our great-grandparents. A lot of us are not privy to have met our great-great-grandparents, and that's too fine. Like, your grandmother is your grandmother, but then your great would be behind your grandmother, and then your great-great would be behind your grandmother's mother. And so that's a lineage that's like, not a lot of us are blessed to know those. So we don't really know if these are generational curses or if they're just stigmas that we've been stuck with because of our ethnicity, our race, color, creed, background, any of those things, So, but I believe we're living this time out right now in our lives today to undo those curses that have been attached to us energetically, spiritually, and some of us emotionally, mentally, let alone physically and mentally, because a lot of us can't move forward with ourselves in a whole self mindset, because somewhere inside of us or outside of us, we're accepting something that's not true, like we're not whole. And so I wish to share with you some resources, or at least today a resource, as to how you can start to go in there and dig and undo some of that stuff. Let me switch my position. Ouch, because I'm on my ankle and this is going to sleep. We didn't have much sun today, and the bugs are trying to get me. We didn't have much sun today, so I'm going to be a little gloomy. I might adjust my camera once or twice, but I do appreciate you all. And so my share today is actually on a holistic self-assessment. If you're not familiar with the term holistic, I'm going to encourage you to look it up. I am in a beautiful marriage, a divine partnership with a wonderful man, and he often says, have you looked up old words with your new mind? And so for a lot of us who claim to be conscious, or at least living consciously, it may come as a shock when you realize that you don't know as much as you thought you knew, especially when you look up the words and by definition you've been using it wrong, or you've not been asserting yourself in the best as you could using certain titles and certain words. And so alhamdulillah for understanding, but I am going to encourage you all to go and look up holistic. For the definition of it, it's going to show you what exactly we're doing with our mental, physical, and spiritual selves. Mental, physical, and spiritual, because those three make up the holistic. And holistic with an H, HOLISTIC, holistic. And so we're doing a holistic self-assessment. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take those spiritual, mental, and physical, and we're going to kind of Rubik's Cube them. We're going to look at them, and not so much in depth, because it's not, I really can only basically give you the information. You still have to take time out. If you journal. If you video blog yourself. Definitely take notes, but you're still going to have to go within yourself to find the answers. It's not a lot of people that can do this work for you. Our friends and our families, when they listen to us, some of them, that's all they can do for us. It's not someone else's job to fix you on a level in which they haven't fixed themselves. They're honestly not even certified, like, let's just say divinely certified, to give you advice on certain things, because they haven't actually acquired that knowledge. They may have read books, but to really have the wisdom, they haven't acquired the knowledge to create a practical application, to use the knowledge to create the wisdom, which in turn will give them the understanding of how to obtain the wisdom, the knowledge to give to somebody else for them to do better. And so a lot of us have friends that are only good listeners, and if that's what you're good at, stick to that, because you do not want to mess up somebody else's life and attach a karma to yourself because you didn't know that you were stepping out of your own spiritual boundaries, in a sense. And there are spiritual boundaries. There are mental boundaries that people push, or physical boundaries that people push on themselves, putting too much pressure on somebody else to fix them or to assist them with something that other person just don't have the skill set to do. And so myself as a facilitator for this holistic life that I've taken on, that's what I do. I facilitate a lot of things for other people so that they can become basically catalysts in their own. Some of them are catalysts in their own family now. Their families now, because of who they've evolved to be, for themselves, and like I said, I'm a facilitator. I don't do the work for them. I just give them essentially the tools they need to get to the next level, and then if you come back, alhamdulillah, I can help you get to the next level, but you have to do this work on your own. You have to do this work for yourself. If you're not working for the greater good of yourself, then what is the point? If we're not working for the greater good of ourselves, we can't be of service to others. There's just no way. For the wounded healer is still wounded healer. Now, when the wounded healer is no longer wounded, then they're a healer. And so we're definitely going to focus more so on putting ourselves together. And like I said, it's holistic. I live a holistic life. My platform was started, my emphasis was more on the spiritual aspect of it, because that's where I was coming into my awakening journey. And so a lot of you, if you followed me, I've been growing and evolving right before your eyes. Like, I'm shifting into who I am in my most authentic self every time I do this, every time I come here. Every time I get to a place where I have something solid and solidified that I've actually taken time and allowed to resonate with my soul, and then I share, you guys see me actually in my most authentic form, being myself, Miss Alanisa Sa'adah Salahaddin, Mrs. Alanisa Sa'adah Salahaddin, and so I appreciate that, but I appreciate it even more being who I am, doing it, because I am a facilitator for others, and so it's like a documented memoir in a sense. And For those who don't actually know me, believe it or not, you probably do. If you've been watching my videos, you probably do know a bit about me because I share, and it's who I am. And so my platform will be evolving. You'll hear me say holistic more often because that's the life that I actually live, and so that is more befitting of who I am. And so you're gonna watch me evolve, and I pray and I hope, alhamdulillah, inshallah, that you guys grow into a holistic life for yourselves. And so, without further ado, the holistic assessment that I've created for you is basically we're gonna take holistic, the physical, mental, and spiritual, and we're gonna look at them individually. But then what the goal is to be able to go inside of yourself and think about the decision that you're going to make and how it makes you feel, and whether or not you can actually agree with yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually, if that's okay for you. Is that something that you wish to attach to yourself, to your soul? That may be very perplexing at times because there's some things that you may feel physically attached to, like you're holding on to something physically, or someone, a person, in a relationship. That's a physical attachment at times. It's also an emotional attachment as well as a mental attachment. And very rarely do we have spiritual attachments in relationships because a lot of us we don't believe, or our faith is not rooted in the same sort of belief system. So it's very rare that you have a common spiritual relationship, but you may. Some people do, and that's a beautiful thing, but when you have a physical or mental attachment to somebody, but not a spiritual attachment, that's not holistic. And so when we have physical attachments that are not basically supporting our mental development and our mental growth and stimulating us mentally, that's like a handicap in a sense. That is literally like something stunning your growth. It's not supporting you. It's not allowing you to soar physically or to evolve physically. You may want to change. Like, I wear a turban and I am Muslim, and so I now wear hijabs. Like, it's very funny to even share that portion of myself, my life, because when I made my last video, my husband was like, well, why don't you wear a hijab? And I was just like, well, I haven't evolved my platform. I haven't introduced my hijab in a sense. And I was like, I laugh now because I listen to it and it sounds so crazy that I would have to introduce my hijab when there's something that really it's not actually separate of me. When I don't have it on, I actually do have it on, because it's not actually the physical covering in itself, for it is a spiritual manifestation of a covering that comes from basically me taking my faith so much more serious, or so much more of a personal thing to me. And so for that understanding, I literally was just like, okay, well, I wrapped the turban today, but I'm outside and it's humid and it's hot. So I was just like, let me get something similar, to my hijab, so that you guys could see me in my hijab, and then you guys can basically get comfortable with seeing me, because some days you will see me with my turban on, alhamdulillah, and then some days you may see me on with a full hijab, with my Muslima thing going on, and so I have nothing against it, for it is who I am, and I have evolved. Like I said before, I've evolved. For those of you who've actually watched me, you will notice that I was wearing just turbans. I only wore turbans, but even my level of modesty has evolved, and so that's something that, if you pay attention to the person who's giving you advice, you should see change. Because if they're not behavior modifying on their own, what makes them fit, or their life isn't proven to you that that they're actually taking their own advice in a sense? What makes them actually fit to advise you, or to help you, or to sign off on any type of mental, physical, spiritual assistance? Do pay attention to those things. And so that's me. But on a holistic level, we have to remember that physically we may be trying to get to another place, or we may be trying to change our external appearance, but it's not spiritually or mentally befitting of who we say we are on an internal level. A lot of the things that we do for ourselves are innate. They're already inside of us. We're just trying to get to a place now where we recognize ourselves from the inside out, And so with the holistic assessment, you'll be able to basically evolve that part of yourself from the inside out, but realistically, you know, not taking on too much that doesn't complement you. Like, okay, true enough, it's humid, but I'm not profusely sweating. So obviously I could probably pin this a little tighter, but that wouldn't be comfortable. Then I probably would start sweating because I'm insulating my heat. But I put on my turban because that's what I wanted to wear. So physically, I did exactly what I needed to do for myself. Spiritually, I feel every time I put on a turban or just have my head covered in some capacity, I feel better. Mentally, I have a sense of peace and clarity when I am this way that it's very hard to put into words, honestly. It's just a really overwhelmingly good whole feeling, you know. And on that note, let me burn some Palo Santos. You know I love my Palo Santos, but I do. For myself, holistically, I do. I wrap my hair, I cover my head quite often. Oh, my lighter is not working. I wrap my head, I cover my crown quite often, and it makes me feel good. And so I want to encourage all of you out there, men and women alike. You know, men, there are kufis, there are also turbans for men, but there are also just scarves that you can put on. Yes, ma'am. Oh my goodness. I'm making my video and then this little baby wakes up. Fine. Bring him here.